You've hated me from day one, Mama. You've done everything to make my life miserable. I can't take it anymore. Mama Ejike pointed a finger at her. You will leave my son's house. I'll make sure of it. Amara's temper went out of control. Do you really think your son is all that? He is just like a houseboy to me. Before Amara could finish her sentence, Mama Ejike's hand lashed out. She gave Amara a loud factory resetting slap that shook the living daylights out of her. Mama Ejike grabbed her neck and the two women began to struggle. In a sudden burst of anger, Amara pushed Mama Ejike with all her strength. The older woman stumbled backward, her arms flailing as she lost her balance. She fell off the pavement and into the shallow, dirty street water that shook the breath out of her. This is how it all started. The sound of a loud slap echoed through the small living room. The wife, Amara, sat frozen, her cheek stinging from her mother-in-law's slap. Mama Ejike's voice was sharp and cutting, her face twisted with anger. Amara stood up, stunned as she glared at Mama Ejike. The previous week, Mama Ejike had given her a dirty slap for no reason at all, and now she was at it again, but this time it was for a valid reason. How dare you? Mama Ejike screamed, pointing a trembling finger at her. In my son's house. You bring another man here, Amara? You have no shame. Amara felt her heart pounding in her chest. She looked at the front door, praying the man she had just been with had gotten away before anyone else noticed. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she refused to cry in front of Mama Ejike. I don't owe you an explanation, Amara said, her voice shaky but defiant. You've hated me from the start, Mama. You've never wanted me to be happy. Happiness. Mama Ejike's laughter was bitter. You call this disgrace happiness? You've brought shame to my son, to my family, and you dare to talk back to me. Amara clenched her fists. What do you care? You've never accepted me. Is it my fault I haven't had a child yet? Is it? Mama Ejike's eyes burned with fury. Your womb is empty, and your heart is filthy. Ejike deserves better than you. The argument escalated, their voices rising. Amara's anger boiled over, and she turned to leave but Mama Ejike blocked her. She rushed past her and stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. Amara walked fast, her heels slapping against the pavement. She didn't know where she was going, but she needed to get away. Her chest felt tight, and tears spilled down her cheeks as she walked. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was Ejike, her husband. She didn't answer. She couldn't. She knew he would side with his mother, like always. Amara reached a bridge overlooking a shallow traffic pond by a busy Lagos market road. She stood on the high pavement, her thoughts raced. Amara! She turned sharply to see Mama Ejike approaching, her wrapper tied tightly around her waist, her slippers flapping as she walked. Are you following me now? Amara shouted. You don't get to run away after what you've done. Mama Ejike said, climbing onto the pavement. You'll answer for this today. Amara's anger flared. What do you want from me, Mama? What will make you happy? I want you out of my son's life. Mama Ejike yelled. You are a curse. The two women stood face to face on the pavement, the Lagos traffic roaring behind them. Amara's hands trembled with rage. Do you think I wanted this life? Amara shouted. Do you think I wanted to be married to a man who listens to his mother more than his wife? Don't blame my son for your failures. Mama Ejike fired back. You can't give him children. You can't even keep yourself decent. Amara's face went red with anger. You've hated me from day one, Mama. You've done everything to make my life miserable. I can't take it anymore. Mama Ejike pointed a finger at her. You will leave my son's house. I'll make sure of it. Amara's temper went out of control. Do you really think your son is all that? He is just like a houseboy to me. Before Amara could finish her sentence, Mama Ejike's hand lashed out. She gave Amara a loud factory resetting slap that shook the living daylights out of her. Mama Ejike grabbed her neck and the two women began to struggle. In a sudden burst of anger, Amara pushed Mama Ejike with all her strength. The older woman stumbled backward, her arms flailing as she lost her balance. She fell off the pavement and into the shallow, dirty street water that shook the breath out of her. There was a splash, followed by her cries. "Awo! Awo! You have broken my waist," Mama Ejike cried. Amara took out her phone and records her and laughed at her. Mama Ejike was in the water, sputtering and struggling to stand as she cries out in her Igbo dialect. You pushed me." Mama Ejike's voice was weak but filled with disbelief. Amara ignored her and continued to record her, laughing. Mama Ejike's cries drew the attention of passers-by. A small crowd began to gather, murmuring and pointing. Then Amara ran. She didn't know where she was going, but she couldn't stay. Her mind was spinning. What had she done? As she ran, a lot of passerby began to record her. She found herself in a small park, hidden among the trees. She sat on a bench, her head in her hands. She could still hear Mama Ejike's voice, accusing her, cursing her. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she answered. "Amara, where are you?" Ejike's voice was tense. She hesitated. "I don't know." "Mama is in the hospital," Ejike said. "She said you pushed her into the water." "Is it true?" Amara's silence was answer enough. The days that followed were a blur. Amara stayed away from home, too ashamed to face her husband or his family. She knew she had made a mistake, but she didn't know how to fix it. Meanwhile, Mama Ejike was recovering, but her anger hadn't cooled. She told everyone who would listen about Amara's betrayal. Ejike found Amara in a small motel. He looked tired and worn, his eyes filled with disappointment. "Amara," he said, sitting across from her. "Why?" Tears streamed down her face. "I was angry, Ejike. I didn't mean to hurt her." "You pushed my mother into a pond," he said quietly. "How can I trust you again?" "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't know how to make this right." Back at the house, Mama Ejike made it clear she wanted Amara gone. "She is dangerous, Ejike," she said. "She doesn't deserve to be your wife." Ejike was torn. He loved Amara, but he couldn't ignore what she had done. Then one morning Amara decided to leave. She packed her things and wrote a letter to Ejike, apologizing for everything. As she left the house, she felt a mix of sadness and relief. She knew it was the right thing to do. Months later, Amara started a new life in a small town. She was heading towards a bank. She found peace in her solitude, but she never stopped thinking about Ejike, and life went on. But then one morning, Ejike sat on the edge of his bed, his head in his hands. He had spent months trying to mend the broken pieces of his life. The neighborhood was noisy, but it was like a heavy silence weighed heavily on him. His mother, Mama Ejike, walked into the room, her expression stern. "Ejike, you're still sitting here like this? What's on your mind?" she asked, her voice sharp. He looked up at her, his face tired. "Mama, I've made a decision. I'm going to find Amara and bring her back." Mama Ejike's eyes widened in disbelief. "What did you just say? Bring that woman back? After what she did to me? Are you insane?" "Mama," Ejike said firmly, "I love her. We all made mistakes, but I can't go on without her." Mama Ejike's face twisted in anger. "So, you choose her over your own mother? That woman nearly killed me." Ejike stood up, his tone unwavering. "Mama, this is not about choosing. It's about fixing what's broken." Then he stormed out of the house. "Okay, know this, when you find her, better not bring her back to this house or you'll see my true color," Mama Ejike yelled after him. Amara was startled to see Ejike standing at her door again. He looked nervous but hopeful. "Ejike," she said, her voice soft. "Why are you here? How did you find me?" "The little lady behind me brought me here." "I came to beg you, Amara," he said. "I want you to come back home. I can't do this without you." Tears welled in Amara's eyes. "What about your mother?" "She hates me." "I'll handle Mama," Ejike promised. "Just come back. Let's try again." Amara hesitated, but eventually nodded. She missed him too much to say no. Amara's return to the house was met with icy silence. Mama Ejike sat in the living room, her arms crossed. When she saw Amara, she hissed loudly. Ejike was so happy to see her as he closed the door. "So you're back," Mama Ejike said, her voice laced with sarcasm. Ejike has truly lost his senses. Amara took a deep breath. "Mama, I know we've had our issues, but I want us to try and get along." "Get along?" Mama Ejike scoffed and jumps up. "With a woman who pushed me into dirty water and recorded with her phone shamelessly? Never. I saw myself on all the blogs. I went viral on social media for the wrong reason. I read all the disgusting comments they hauled on me. An old woman who was just fighting for her son and minding her life." Ejike stepped in. "Mama, enough. Amara is my wife. She's here to stay." But the words only fueled Mama Ejike's anger. "Then don't expect peace in this house," she yelled after Amara as she stormed out of the living room with her luggage. The days that followed were filled with tension. Every small interaction turned into a confrontation. One morning, Amara prepared breakfast and placed it on the dining table. As Ejike sat down to eat, Mama Ejike walked in. "You're eating food from this woman?" she asked, glaring at the plate. "Mama, stop this," Ejike said, irritated. "She might poison you one day," Mama Ejike continued. "Be careful." Amara opened her mouth in disbelief, unable to accept the words she heard from her mother-in-law. "Mama, if you don't want to eat my food, don't. But stop insulting me in my own house." Mama Ejike stood up to her, her voice rising. "Your house? This is my son's house. You are just a visitor." Ejike tried to calm them, but the shouting match escalated, with both women refusing to back down. One afternoon, Amara decided to do some cleaning. She entered the kitchen and found Mama Ejike deliberately pouring palm oil on the kitchen floor. Then she poured oil onto the clean counter. She took the last oil container in the kitchen and poured it into the fufu Amara was preparing. "Mama, what are you doing?" Amara shouted, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm teaching you how to clean properly," Mama Ejike replied smugly. "You're too lazy to keep this house in order." Amara's patience snapped. "You're doing this on purpose. Why can't you just leave me alone?" "Because you don't belong here," Mama Ejike shouted. "You're a failure as a wife." The shouting brought Ejike rushing in. He found Amara and his mother inches away from each other, their faces red with anger. "This has to stop," Ejike yelled. "Both of you, enough." Despite Ejike's attempts to mediate, the fights continued. That evening, Mama Ejike accused Amara of stealing her jewelry. "My gold necklace is missing," Mama Ejike announced loudly. "I'm sure Amara took it." Amara was livid. "Why would I steal your necklace, Mama? Do you hear yourself?" Mama Ejike smirked. "Who else would take it? You're desperate, aren't you?" Ejike intervened, searching the entire house until he found the necklace in Mama Ejike's room. He handed it to her. "Mama, you misplaced it. Apologize to Amara." But Mama Ejike refused. "Never. I know what I know." The situation worsened when Amara announced she was pregnant. Ejike was overjoyed. He carried Amara in his arms and they both celebrated, but Mama Ejike refused to celebrate. "How do we even know it's his child?" she muttered loudly enough for Amara to hear. Amara confronted her. "Mama, why can't you just be happy for us?" "Happy?" Mama Ejike sneered. "You've trapped my son with this pregnancy. Don't think I'll fall for it. Who knows what you've spoken to the darkness? Who knows what you did in order to get pregnant?" The argument turned into another shouting match, with Ejike caught in the middle. As Amara's pregnancy progressed, Mama Ejike's behavior became more spiteful. She would deliberately scatter the baby items Amara bought on the floor, claiming they were unnecessary. One day, Amara found her throwing away a set of baby clothes. "Mama, what are you doing?" Amara asked, horrified. "These are ugly," Mama Ejike said dismissively. "My grandchild deserves better." Amara grabbed the basket containing her baby clothes from her. "You have no right to touch my things. And you have no right to be in this house." Mama Ejike fired back. Ejike reached his breaking point. One evening, he gathered both women in the living room. "This cannot continue," he said firmly. "Mama, I love you, but you need to respect my wife. Amara, I need you to be patient." Mama Ejike scoffed. "Patient? After everything she's done. Amara crossed her arms. I've tried, Ejike, but your mother makes it impossible. The argument spiraled again, leaving Ejike feeling helpless. The birth of the baby changed everything. When Mama Ejike held her grandchild for the first time, her icy demeanor melted slightly. This child, she murmured, her voice softer than Amara had ever heard. But the peace was short-lived. A week later, Mama Ejike resumed her criticism, now targeting Amara's parenting skills. You're holding the baby wrong, she snapped one day. You'll harm the child. Amara glared at her. Mama, let me raise my child in peace. And so, the cycle of confrontations continued, with both women locked in an endless battle of wills. If you enjoyed this story, please kindly subscribe, leave a like, comment, and share for more.